They sold my 40-acre ranch while I was lowering my father into the ground. $1. That's all it took for the HOA president's daughter to claim 3 generations of my family's sweat, calluses, and dreams. A single goddamn dollar. Now I stand here watching her bulldozers carve deep wounds into the land my grandfather cleared with his own 2 hands. The diesel fumes sting my throat, and the roar of engines smothers every meadowlark song I once knew by heart. This place used to hum with life. Now it groans under steel and greed. But what they didn't count on was me. I'm not just a grieving rancher, I'm a welder. And the fence I built wasn't just a boundary line, it became the fuse that exposed their fraud, bankrupted every last conspirator, and sent that smug woman straight to federal prison. People ask what I'd do while mourning if someone stole my inheritance. Well, I didn't just fight back. I rewrote the rules. And the best part? The legal loophole I found works in all 50 states. So sit tight, because this story's just beginning. My name's Garrett Murdoch. I'm 52, a third-generation cattleman, and until 6 weeks ago, I thought I knew exactly how my story would end, right here on Broken Antler Ranch. My grandfather staked this ground in 1961, hauling lumber in a pickup and sheer stubborn will. My father, Emmett Murdoch, inherited that grit. He just lost his 18-month war with pancreatic cancer, a cruel fight that stripped him from the inside out. The kind of sickness that turns a man who could rope a steer blindfolded into a whisper of who he was. I spent those final weeks by his side in a hospice in Colorado Springs, listening to him retell how he built this place, fence post by fence post, paycheck by paycheck. I split my time between welding industrial steel in the city and running the ranch on weekends. Never married, no kids. This ranch was my legacy, my retirement, and my purpose all rolled into one. Walk into my father's study, and the scent of old leather still hits you like a memory you can touch. The same worn chair, the same faded maps on the wall, edges curling like old leaves. Step outside, and the porch boards still grown underfoot in the exact spots they did when I was 10. The wind whistling through the barn cracks still carries the same song it did when I drift off to sleep as a boy. Every nail, every squeak, every smell, they're ghosts of the men who came before me. For years, this land was more than property. It was proof that our name meant something. Until 5 years ago, when progress, or whatever they call it, arrived at our borders. That's when the trouble began. 5 years back, a developer bought up the old BLM land next to us and birthed a monstrosity they named Sage Valley Estates. 142 beige boxes lined in perfect rows. Each came with manicured lawns, artificial smiles, and a mandatory HOA fee of $340 a month. A fee for rules, fences, and permission slips. The kind of nonsense ranchers laugh at. Their bylaws dictated mailbox colors and lawn lengths like they were scripture. The irony? My ranch had been here 60 years before their first foundation poured. Their laws didn't touch me, couldn't touch me. My deed was sovereign ground. To me, Broken Antler was freedom. To them, it was an eyesore. And to her, the HOA president, it was a prize she'd do anything to take. They called it progress, but to me, it looked like decay wrapped in vinyl siding. Those cookie-cutter homes sprouted up overnight, choking the horizon where open pastures once rolled free. The hum of cicadas was replaced by the shrill buzz of leaf blowers and lawnmowers, all synced to the rhythm of suburbia. My neighbors traded stars for streetlights, soil for asphalt, and pride for property guidelines. They'd look over their white picket fences and sneer at my barn like it was a blemish on their brochure-perfect world. I could feel their eyes every time I saddled up or hauled feed, like I was some relic refusing extinction. They didn't understand this land's heartbeat, the cost of keeping it alive. And standing at the edge of that concrete tide, I swore nothing would ever uproot what my family built, not without a fight. Her name was Vivian Stroud, president of the Sage Valley HOA. Polished nails, pearl earrings, and a voice sharp enough to split timber. The kind who smiled with her mouth, but not her eyes. From the start, she made it clear, my ranch didn't fit the neighborhood aesthetic. She called it a safety concern, an eyesore, a fire hazard. What it really was, a reminder that she didn't own everything. She tried to find me, threatened to report violations, even though I wasn't under her authority. I laughed at her letters, but each one came closer to malice. Then her daughter, Amber, the one with the law degree and the fake grin, showed up with a briefcase and a handshake. That handshake was the start of the heist that took everything. The day they sold my land, I was miles away, standing graveside under a cold sky, saying goodbye to my father. The preacher's words drifted like smoke, and all I could think about was how empty the ranch would feel without him. While I lowered him into the earth, paperwork was being signed behind my back. A forged deed, a fake signature, all tied neatly with legal ribbon. When I got home, there was a notice of transfer nailed to my own fence post. Sold for $1 to Amber Stroud. My chest went hollow. The same ground that held my grandfather's sweat, my father's ashes, and my childhood dreams had been stolen while I was burying the man who built it. That was the moment grief turned into fire. They came at dawn, bulldozers, surveyors, and construction trucks crawling across my land like a plague. I remember the sound, metal grinding against soil, the scream of engines chewing through my history. I yelled, waved the deed, but they ignored me. Said it was approved development. One driver even smirked, said, orders from the HOA. I watched helplessly as they uprooted fences my grandfather welded, crushed the soil where our cattle once grazed, and erased decades of memory in a single afternoon. Diesel smoke thickened the air until it burned my eyes. I felt like I was choking on my own past. But deep down, I wasn't broken, I was playing. They didn't know who they were dealing with. I'd spent 30 years welding steel, understanding structure, pressure, and how to make things fail from the inside. If they were going to steal my home with paperwork, I'd take theirs apart with proof. I started digging, county records, property filings, bank transfers. Every document I touched led to another lie. Vivian had used HOA funds to bribe inspectors, forge land deeds, and funnel cash through dummy companies. The same people who'd lectured me about community standards were laundering money under the HOA's nose. I didn't just have a grudge anymore, I had leverage. And the first spark of justice burned hotter than any welding torch I'd ever held. The old fence running along the north line wasn't just metal and wire. It was a boundary, and my best weapon. I welded a new section, reinforced it with industrial steel, and mapped every inch using my father's original survey logs. When I submitted that record to the county clerk, it exposed every falsified map the HOA used to claim my land. Turns out, their development boundary overlapped mine by 67 feet, the same area they bulldozed. That discovery triggered a domino effect of lawsuits, audits, and panic. Vivian tried to bury it, but the paperwork trail was undeniable. My fence became evidence, and my evidence became a wrecking ball. Once the investigation started, Sage Valley's perfect little world began to crumble. Neighbors whispered, board members resigned, and banks froze HOA accounts. Turns out, Vivian's daughter hadn't just bought my ranch, she'd used stolen HOA funds to do it. The feds came knocking within weeks. The same woman who'd sneered at my barn now sat under fluorescent lights, answering to federal agents. Watching their empire rot from the inside was almost poetic. But I wasn't celebrating yet. Until the title was back in my name, justice was just a promise waiting to be kept. The courtroom smelled of dust and cheap perfume. Vivian sat at the defense table, trembling behind her lawyer's mask of arrogance. I took the stand, laid out every record, the forged signatures, the fraudulent wire transfers, the fence survey that shattered their lives. Each document hit like a hammer struck. The judge's gavel echoed like thunder when he ruled in my favor. Deed restored. Damages awarded. Vivian and her daughter both sentenced for fraud and conspiracy. I didn't smile. I just exhaled for the first time in months. My land was mine again, but the cost, losing my father before he saw justice, still cut deep. When I came home, the silence was heavier than before. The bulldozers were gone, the dust settled, but the scars remained. Fences bent, fields torn, barn half collapsed. I walked the property line, running my hand along the cold steel posts of the fence that saved me. It wasn't victory I felt, it was survival. My father's ghost lingered in every gust of wind, every rusted hinge. This land had been wounded, but it was still breathing. Just like me. Welding taught me one thing: heat reveals weakness. Too much pressure, and metal bends or breaks, just like people. Vivian thought power made her untouchable. She never understood that truth and time are like flame. They burn away everything fake. I realized the same fire that destroys can also forge. Losing my father, my land, my peace, it all tempered me into something unbreakable. And in that fire, I found purpose again. After the trial, people started reaching out. Ranchers, homeowners, small-town families who'd been bullied by their HOAs. They wanted to know how I did it, how I fought back and won. I told them the truth. It wasn't revenge that saved me. It was knowledge. Knowing the law better than those who twisted it. I shared the same loophole that exposed my thieves. The property reversion clause hidden in state codes most people overlook. The same tool works nationwide. One small clause, and a lifetime's worth of justice. Sometimes, late at night, I sit on the porch and hear the past whispering through the grass. My grandfather's laughter, my father's steady voice. The cattle are gone, the fields quieter now, but the land still holds them. I've rebuilt piece by piece, barn beams straightened, gates welded shut. The scars are part of the story. And though I stand here alone, I know I've kept their promise alive. Never let anyone take what your family bled for. When the story broke, the whole town turned its head. People who once looked away when Vivian pushed her power now stood in my driveway, shaking my hand. The local paper called it the $1 Ranch Scandal. Reporters came, asked for interviews. I let them walk the fields, showed them the fence line that started it all. For once, the world saw what greed had tried to bury, not just a ranch, but a legacy. Winning doesn't always feel like victory. My body's tired, my heart heavier than ever. The land is safe, but the cost of justice carved deeper than I expected. I'd trade every dollar of that settlement just to have one more morning hearing Dad holler from the barn. But I know he'd be proud. He'd tell me this is what Murdochs do. We endure, we rebuild, we never back down. And so I don't. I rebuilt the entire boundary myself. Every post welded by hand, every mark measured to the inch. On the last post, I burned one word into the steel: endurance. This time, the fence isn't just for marking land. It's a monument. A promise to my father, my grandfather, and every honest man who's been robbed by paper and greed. It stands against the skyline, a shining reminder that no lie lasts forever. They stole my inheritance while I mourned, but I took it back with truth and grit. If someone came for your legacy, your family's soul written in dirt and sweat, what would you do? Would you bow, or would you fight like hell? My name's Garrett Murdoch, and I learned the hard way that justice doesn't come knocking. You forge it. You weld it. You stand your ground until it holds. And if you're watching this from anywhere across America, remember, The law is still on your side. You just have to know where to strike.